Dominica, a once charming Caribbean island with volcanic peaks and boiling waters, sparkling waterfalls and rushing streams, lays in rubble now in the wake of Hurricane Maria. The Bahamas, like many other of the neighboring countries, has pledged to help in the rebuilding effort. However, this administration has had to fend off an unusually high amount of criticism for what was seemingly a humanitarian gesture. What led to the government now having to defend a decision to provide aid to a neighbor? Tonight, we explore Dominica, the cost of being neighborly. Here to get in on the discussion, the Honourable Darren Penfield, he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as Reverend Frederick McAlpine, MP for Pine Ridge, who has publicly dissented with the Prime Minister and party on this issue. It's all on the record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Our show begins on the other side of this break.
On the Record is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
What do you believe?
Do you believe in energy? Do you believe in dreams?
Do you believe in passion?
Do you believe in family?
Do you believe in caring?
Do you believe in freedom?
Do you believe in imagination?
Do you believe in love?
Do you believe in community?
Do you believe in discovering?
Do you believe in music?
Do you believe in yourself?
Do you believe in living?
Believe in best.
Alive. Believe in best.
Shakespeare in Paradise presents its 2017 Theater Festival, featuring Othello, Once on This Island, Small Axe, From a Yardie to a Yankee, Bard to Go, Derek Burrows, Storyteller, Judah the Lion, Tebby Burrows, and Before the Trees Was Strange, October 2nd through 14th. Tickets can be purchased at the Dundas. 4 plays, 5 events, and 40 performers. Shakespeare in Paradise. See the wonder of your world.
What are you doing?
Calling the bank to order more checks.
Go to epbahamas.com and order your checks from Executive Printers.
Executive Printers. We're the authority in business and personal check printing in the Bahamas. Come in and see one of our specialists or visit us online at epbahamas.com to design and order your checks today.
Welcome back to On the Record. Prime Minister Minnis has gotten much support as well as an equal amount of criticism for extending the hand of assistance to Dominica after Hurricane Maria. We begin with a look at what has brought us to this place in the debate.
Dominica, now beleaguered by Hurricane Maria. It's a small Caribbean country in the Windward Islands in the Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean Sea. Up until now, there were few occasions where Dominica and the Bahamas had any real public bilateral dealings or reasons to form alliances. That is, until Hurricane Maria swept over that nation, leaving an unprecedented trail of damage and destruction. Hurricane Maria made landfall in Dominica on September 18th as a massive Category 5 storm. It ripped through that island, destroying communications, infrastructure, and other critical facilities. It seemed to compound the images of the season's already devastating monster storms. But then in late September, a visit by Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt changed everything. Prime Minister Hubert Minnis announced at his departure that the Bahamas will do all it can to assist in Dominica's rebuilding efforts.
So we'll do all we can to assist because they've been devastated, and similar thing could have happened to us. There would have been a lot of children that would have been displaced, and therefore we're opening our school system to accommodate them. And our immigration minister would deal with that matter so that they can be placed within our school system. And of course, I plead to Bahamians, especially with Dominican roots and Bahamians in general, to assist even to accommodate these individuals in the private schools. And I'm sure we have a lot of Bahamians out there who would assist in accommodating these individuals, both financially and otherwise.
His announcement that we would be accommodating children in our school system displaced by the storm lit a fuse of debate, firstly on social media. It would extend into the wider public with a wave of concerns about costs, overcrowding in the schools, immigration issues, even fears of infidelity by Bahamians. But the chorus grew just as loud in favor of the move, with Bahamians supporting Menace for the humanitarian Christian gestures. One of these voices was the Bahamas Dominica Association, who thanked the government for the support, but were outright disappointed and surprised by the opposition to the offer. Days later, an emotional Prime Minister Menace addressed it in the House of Assembly.
Dominica, Mr. Speaker, has experienced an apocalypse. At least 15 people have died, with the death toll likely to rise. Dominica is a country of mountains. Quite a number of mountain communities are not accessible by road. Reports suggest that 85% of buildings have either been destroyed or severely damaged.
Despite providing details of the proposed aid, the dissension continued, even within the ranks of Menace's own FNM party. Pine Ridge MP Frederick McAlpine insisted that this kind of charity belongs at home, especially given the state of some of his own constituents still suffering from previous year's storms.
I think we are quite aware and quite obvious that there are questions. I've just asked some of the most pertinent questions. Is there a cost to the Bahamian people? How many people are coming? Are these people immunized? Who's accompanying these people? This is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, not the United Nations.
It's one of those issues that can elicit a different response depending on who you ask. And what started off as a gesture of good faith has divided the country, in some cases, within the political divide.
On the Record is sponsored by BAF Financial. BAF for life.
I'm free to live my life, yeah. Free to be me, yeah. The way I wanna be. Doing the things that I wanna do. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey! BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey! BAF for life. For life. BAF has got you covered.
Get in the game with NFL Sunday Ticket from Rev TV. You'll get every game every Sunday afternoon in crystal clear HD. That's over 220 football games for the entire regular season. Plus, NFL Sunday Ticket gives you that died and woke up in football heaven experience when you include NFL Red Zone, a channel dedicated to every scoring play from every game and all your fantasy football teams. Get in the game with NFL Sunday Ticket. Call 601-8992 today.
Play with Island Games. We making dreams come true. Play with Island Games. We paying more out to you. Don't mind the noise. toys in the market, you getting cash in your pocket. 'Cause Island Games is spicy, and spicy is tradition. So when you play, we putting Bahamians first, guaranteed to pay. We like them other jokers, we've been here from the start, from the bike to computer. Island Games, we can make your dreams come true. We playing with Island Games.
Welcome back to On the Record. Normally, in the midst of a busy hurricane season, which has affected two of our islands, we would have been discussing the aftermath and/or recovery. As we have come to realize, though, the landscape continues to change, even when it comes to hurricane recovery. Dominica, the cost of being neighborly, is our topic tonight. My guest for this segment is Reverend Frederick McAlpine, who seems to have a cautious view of what should be the act of kindness set out by the Prime Minister towards Dominica. Reverend McAlpine, welcome to the show. Good to have you as a first-time guest of On the Record.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Jerome Sawyer, an internationally awarded individual here in the Bahamas.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. So, I want to talk a little bit first about what are the real concerns with offering help to Dominica from your perspective? I think you've come under a lot of criticism for what you would have said when given the opportunity to speak in the House of Assembly. But what really, first of all, what precipitated your concerns in this regard?
First of all, I need to be abundantly clear to the Bahamian folks. I've never been against helping or assisting Dominica. I've made that clear publicly. I don't think, I'm beginning to wonder if there's just nothing wrong with the message. Perhaps maybe they have a problem with the messenger. Because I've been saying this specifically over and over, we can assist Dominica. Now, the method might be questioned. And for me, I thought at this time it should be more or less financial. We have always assisted our brothers and sisters by giving aid, sending financial assistance, donating, even sending manpower, which has been the norm. Matter of fact, I think it's the norm that every region, everybody in the CARICOM region support a sister island or country, with the norm being a minimum of $100,000.
We have been recipients of that aid from other countries.
Yes, and we have also given to other countries. And so that's not the issue. We've always responded to the needs of our brothers and sisters, but we responded by giving aid, finances, carrying folks down to these islands and trying to assist. The situation is different when you're asking people to leave their country to come into your country, where my view is they should be in their country to help build their country, and we should assist them in seeking to build their country.
How do you, though, leverage that argument when you're talking first about children? There's no school. Schools aren't open. I mean, based on what we have seen and heard, there is nowhere for them to go to school, and there's no way to continue with their education. And in the aftermath of a storm, children really pose a very precarious scenario because they can't help in the recovery effort. They aren't going to school, and this is time being lost. So how do you sort of leverage that when you're talking about children in a situation like this?
We're talking about children, and I think that's the emotional part of trying to get to people. Anytime you want to get to people, use the children, and when you're not using the children, use the women. The reality is, I understand all of that. But what about breaking up families? I'm understanding the situation. Idea. Why not have trailers placed on the island where children can attend classes in a trailer, and generators, and power up these trailers and allow them to go to school, and they're still there with their family, and at the same time, you're not breaking up the family. And I have no problem with the children coming, but at the end of the day, people are going to be coming with these children. They're not coming by themselves. So for each child, 20 children, but for each child, you could have up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 persons coming with that one child.
Even though they have said that this is going to be an application process where you have to apply to come, and it is monitored by immigration, and not sort of throw the borders open and everybody come.
We have to wait and see. I speak out of, and most of the Bahamian people are concerned about past experience.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't good at something yesterday, what makes you think you're going to be better at it tomorrow?
Well, I guess the argument of that is, we now have a new government, a different government of which you are
yes,
a part.
we do have a different government. Governments change. The civil servant haven't.
Did you have this conversation with the Prime Minister or Cabinet before your remarks in Parliament?
In terms of
your concerns?
I heard the remarks in Parliament.
Mm-hmm.
In Parliament.
And so there was no prior conversation say, hey, Prime Minister, these are my concerns. I don't.
Like many citizens, I've heard it.
So I guess, and the criticism has been, why make it so public? Why not have a private conversation? Why not express these things?
The view that I share, Jerome, is a view that many persons in the Bahamas share. This is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Let me make it emphatically clear. I'm a Christian. I support us helping our neighbors.
Some people will say that you're being unchristian.
No, I'm
because
not.
Because of your position.
How is it that I think that's also unfair and not fair to me. Because even the Bible says, Jesus says, I'm going away, but I'm going to leave you the Holy Spirit. He says, and I'm leaving you the Holy Spirit. And I want you to be a witness for me in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the world. You start at home. Christianity begins at home. Now I hear all this talk about the children. Well, okay, I'm unchristian because I'm saying, listen, help them. Let's see what we can do to assist them. But let's not do it at the expense of neglecting our own country and our own citizens. I'm unchristian now because I'm saying, well, that's not my view that we should have had the children come to attend private schools in the Bahamas. The same church private schools. The same church private schools would put Bahamian children, smart Bahamian, out of the school because they couldn't afford to pay. But they're Christian and I'm unchristian. I'm only speaking for Bahamians. There is a view, and I want to thank my party because we understand the power of democracy. Everybody does not agree. I'm not saying, we've always sent help. And there are many people that have helped to build this country. Many other persons from various other countries that have helped to build this country. So I'm not saying not to do that. I'm simply saying that at this time, when the Bahamas is talking about austerity, when the Bahamas is talking about economic hardship, I'm simply saying that we need to consider perhaps another means, because my view was that in the long run, it would cost us more.
If given the opportunity, what would you have done differently? How would you have positioned this whole discussion about helping Dominica? What would you have done differently?
I would have wanted to see more assistance, even with our own people. Let's say this. Okay, we say it's hard time, economic times. I don't know. I would have wanted to see more of a balance. A balance in terms of, you see, we keep hollering that Dominica is a part of CARICOM. But so is Barbuda. Antigua and Barbuda. Yet I understand that Barbuda was destroyed. Folks move into Antigua, but at the same time, they're part of CARICOM. The Turks and Caicos was also badly struck. They're not in CARICOM, but they're an associate member state. And the premier is a Bahamian. If we're going to have this Christian principle, as we say it, it can't just be for a selected few. Let Puerto Rico, St. Martin, they're not a part of the CARICOM states, but they are also in our region. So let's help everybody. And then, you know, we get this impression that Jamaica, our older sister, has given $100K to Dominica and have sent Defense Force officers down there to assist. I'm saying why the Bahamas couldn't do the same thing.
So you think it would have been more feasible for us to send money and trailers and things
food, clothing, and
as
even,
opposed to people just coming?
Hold on, and even manpower, which has been the norm, to help them get their electrical infrastructure back in place, the building of walls. I keep hearing people say, well, there's nothing to work with. So Dominica doesn't want to rebuild its country? They won't need money to buy supplies and to get wood and lumber and cement. And how long is it going to take to build a country? We don't know. So I'm just simply saying manpower, donations, because we have people here in our country, not comparing, but are also in need. So we can't, you know, it's like me. My wife is saying my son needs a pair of shoes. I get paid every week. The child has asked me for a pair of shoes. The wife is asking me for a pair of shoes. I get paid, buy the shoes. The wife says, maybe this isn't the right size. Oh, I know, darling. This isn't for our child. This is for the neighbor. They need a pair of shoes. Just doesn't sound right.
What if that neighbor needs it more than your son? What
Then
if that
that would
neighbor
mean that,
is...
yeah, if that neighbor needs it more than that son, then that's acceptable.
So you don't accept the same principle with Dominica? They are in dire need?
They are in dire need, but here's the problem. And this is where some of the media has tried to spin. They are in dire need, and I'm saying assist.
So you're saying
the argument is being trying to make it sound, again, maybe the messenger, as if he's saying not to assist.
So you're saying get the shoes.
But also make sure your child have shoes too.
Shoes as well. Okay.
Because scripture, he who cannot take care of his own household is worse than an infidel and has denied the faith.
Well, sir, I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to really talk too about, I think, what is some of the basis of this too, and that would have to be what is happening within your constituency and what still needs to be done in Grand Bahama. But we are looking at Dominica, the cost of being neighborly. Our guest this segment, Reverend Frederick McAlpine. We're going to continue our discussion on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
This segment is sponsored by Percy's Island Game.
Play with Island Games. We making dreams come true. Play with Island Games. We paying more out to you. Don't mind the noise in the market. You getting cash in your pocket. 'Cause Island Games is spicy and spicy is tradition. So when you play we putting Bahamians first. Guaranteed to pay. Island Games. We like them other jokers. We've been here from the start. From the bike to computer. Island Games, we can make your dreams come true. We playing with Island Games.
Yep. I got you. I really appreciate you helping us out. No problem, buddy. Yeah, but thanks for helping us more. Oh, I see you. What happened, babe? What you mean?
Our news weekend has moved to 7:30.
I'm free to live my life, yeah. Free to be me, yeah. The way I wanna be. Doing the things that I wanna do.
Yes, I'm living my life. Hey! BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey! BAF for life.
For life, BAF has got you covered.
This is a free country. It's a democratic country. I am proud to live in a democratic country. I subscribe to that which is enshrined in our Constitution, that we are a country undergirded by spiritual and Christian values. And I take my Christian commitment seriously. I don't talk this, I live this. And one of the principal expressions of Christianity is compassion. and generosity and a willingness to extend yourself even beyond your own needs. As I am advised, we may not even need to exercise the resources of the public education system because the private schools have already extended the invitation to receive those students and as many of them as may wish to come. I understand it's only about 20 students who may choose to come to the Bahamas.
Would have heard there the Minister of Education speaking with reporters to this very same issue, speaking of the possibility they have about maybe 20 students who could actually come and take advantage of going to school within the private school system. But you brought up, this particular issue that these schools don't allow Bahamians who can't pay.
That's the reality. That's where we're at. And may I also say, I agree with the minister. Christianity is about compassion, and I live it, and I would not question his Christianity or anybody's Christianity, because salvation in Christianity is a personal relationship between an individual and his or her God.
Some of the discussions that I have heard will be very pointed towards assisting, some of the arguments are that, we have not assisted, for instance, Haiti to this level or done other things for other countries. Are we caught up in a form of xenophobia with our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean?
I'm not xenophobic. Anybody who personally know that I'm not xenophobic, okay? My father, who died a Bahamian citizen, is originally from Jamaica. Okay? My grandfather's from the Turks and Caicos. Okay? So I'm not xenophobic. I'm not racist. What if I was to apply that same thread of thought to the people of the Haitian community in this country? Because they go through it all the time. Matter of fact, it was difficult just the other day prior to Dominica, where it was difficult for persons of the Haitian community to get their child into a public school here in the Bahamas, and we would have been going against the norm of the United Nations, who require us not to have immigration policies when it comes to healthcare and education. So I don't know. I can say Frederick McAlpine is not xenophobic. I'm just balanced. If I'm wrong for fighting for Bahamians and wanting to put Bahamians first, what are we missing? The last regime said Bahamians first. That proved. Now our regime says it's the people's time. Fair enough. I'm saying, can we live up to these themes?
Part of your concern, I think, would have to do with the state of recovery in your constituency in Grand Bahama. I want to speak to that and give us a sort of a snapshot of what has not happened.
Let me also say this. Not just at this time,
right.
Grand Bahama, Ragged Island, Salina Point, Acklands, Bimini. And I hear people say, well, it's not as catastrophic. I understand that. But for us in Grand Bahama, some of us have not recovered from Hurricane Wilma, Jane, Francis, Matthew. It has devastated our economy. Practically every hotel is closed. That means tourism and anything related to tourism is down, which means a number of persons on my island is not working. And who are working 1 and 2 days out of the week. Grand Bahama right now is on a wing and a prayer. It looks nothing like the Grand Bahama you know, Jerome. It is filthy, it is dirty, the grasses are growing up. You beg to say, where is this?
So you have inherited this as a government.
I've inherited, yes, we have.
How are you, the Minister Administration, intending to fix Grand Bahama? What is being done? What are the plans short or long term, to really get Grand Bahama back on its feet? You, by your own admission, the island is on a wing and a prayer. How are you fixing?
That is what we need to know from our leaders and our leadership
So you don't
team.
know at this
No,
point?
no, I mean, we have had initiatives. Have we discussed what we're going to do as outlined in from the speech from the throne and our manifesto? I don't even want to rehash the fact that we're going to supposed to have a financial center, a technical hub. I don't even want to say it anymore because we know what we said is going to be done. When are we going to move from talk, action?
So that is your concern?
That's my concern. And my concern is that at this time, we have so many other distractions. And I'm saying people feel, okay, neglected. They feel that, okay, we understand you want to help next door, but you realize that the man who's an elderly man living with his mother, doesn't have any insurance, roof's still looking up in the sky. Still looking up in the sky. People's houses are still leaking.
Are you dissatisfied with the pace at which things are happening?
I am, and many people are. And that don't make me anti-F&M or anti-government. Let's just be, can we have an honest conversation? Can we address the elephant in the room? We are moving precipitously slow. Precipitously slow. Extremely slow. And people know it. I know nothing happens overnight. But we're in charge.
Why do you think you're moving so slowly? What's the reason? If you can give an assessment as to why things are moving slowly, and others in the party seem to say that we're moving along quite steadily. And
I don't know. I don't know if they agree because I've heard some of the speeches from the in thanking her Governor General. And
so you think there are other people in the party who think you're
I've
moving
heard it.
too
I've heard it on the floor.
So what is the cause? I mean, what would you say is leading to the slow movement?
Let me put it this way. If you're in charge of a particular area here at this broadcasting station and you've got leadership ability, you're expected to do your job. So I'm simply saying, you in charge, act like it, show it. And I'm simply saying that the Free National Movement government is in charge. Act like it, show it. You know, well, that's another coin. That's another kettle of fish altogether. But you know, when the PLP came into office, 52 weeks, 30 days, when it was all over, they came into office in May, and by June, they removed who needed to be removed and put people in place.
So you're saying that's not happening? Even though people are going home and being sent, contracts have come to an end, not being renewed, people are being
Some contracts have not fully come to an end because some contracts have almost an open contract. It didn't have an end. And so they're just on contract. And I'm not saying that we're not doing or we don't plan to do it, but the fact of the matter is you have to put your people in place if you got to get your job
So
done.
you're saying
you
in
can't
essence,
continue to have political operatives in positions who are blocking.
So you're saying people who are loyal to the former government and to the PLP are still in place and hampering movement?
There are some persons, yes, there are persons. I can't say it's across the board entirely, but yes.
Well, wouldn't that be political victimization?
No, it's not victimization. Your contract is up. And if it's not up, it should be up. Because if it's an open-end contract, we can't consider. See, and this is what, again, I don't like us to play. I think politicians don't realize that this is a smarter electorate. They're not crazy. They listen to what you say. And when you try to play games as if you're trying to outsmart them, by using the play of words. People are quite aware in this country that, look, political patronage is accepted in democracies around the world. You think I gave you $1 million to just give you $1 million so when you win we must sing Kumbaya and hold hands? I did that so as to ensure that one, you would win the government, and two, that you would help me to boost the economy, hire people in the community, and also at the same time help myself. That is the reality around the world. Call it what you want to call it. It is what it is. When the Democrats move in, the Republicans move out. When the Republican moves in, the Democrats move out. You cannot continue to have persons who are anti your vision, anti your goal, and continue to think you're going to move ahead.
Again, I asked, have you had these conversations with the Prime Minister? Have you told him your
I've shared
concerns?
these views have been expressed
And
with
what has
members
been
of
his
my
response?
colleagues. These views have been expressed. And of course, you know, the 6 months and we're getting there and we're going to do it slowly but surely. My only argument is some people will die in the process. Behemoths, economically, socially, perhaps in some cases. There's a lot of, I don't know about Nassau, but in Grand Bahama, there's a lot of stressful folks. People are dying because of the stress.
I've heard.
Can't meet their bills, don't know they're sick. It's not helping us. And where am I wrong for simply saying, you can help Dominica, you can help Puerto Rico, you can help Barbuda, you can help the Turks and Caicos, you can help the world, because we are a part of the world. We are global. But also help whom? Because if I can't help whom, I can't help the neighbor.
Reverend McElvine, I thank you very much for sharing with us, certainly bringing some clarification to what you would have said, and continuing to shed some light on the situation in Grand Bahama. I think sometimes we forget that things there are as bad as they are and have been for a while.
And let me say this, Jerome, before I leave. I am an F&M. I am an F&M MP. But one of the reasons why the last regime was voted out, and when we were in power in 2012, we were voted out, is because people in the Bahamas are tired of yes, sir, get along for going along. We need persons to ask the pertinent questions because this electorate is smarter. And when you don't ask the question and they just see you as, oh, you're only there to help yourself and to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, okay, we will deal with you next time around.
Very good point. So, thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck, and we'll continue to sort of keep an eye on you and certainly your contributions in Parliament as you continue to speak up and keep your party's feet to the fire, it seems, continuously. And that, you know, to your credit, that's a little new for us. It's usually when things get really, really bad that we start to hear from within the party. But very early on in the administration, you are speaking up about some things that need to be done, and I applaud you for it.
And let me also applaud you, and I like your show, For the Record. For the record, I've been watching For the Record.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Keep watching. We're hoping to come to Grand Bahama very soon. We do want to take the show on the road to get to Grand Bahama and really dig a little deeper into some of the issues that you have in there and share that with the public. So we'll talk about that. Definitely. Thank you very much. Stay with us. We will continue our show, The Cost of Being Neighborly. We're looking at how that cost is affecting our country. We're going to be back right after this.
What do you believe?
Do you believe in energy? Do you believe in dreams?
Do you believe in passion?
Do you believe in family?
Do you believe in caring?
Do you believe in freedom?
Do you believe in imagination?
Do you believe in love?
Do you believe in community?
Do you believe in discovering?
Do you believe in music?
Do you believe in yourself?
Do you believe in living?
Believe in best.
Since our first episode on the record has had a profound effect on audiences, each week we push the boundaries of political debate, exploring the challenges of governance, the excitement of opposition politics, all against the backdrop of a majority young and oftentimes impatient electorate.
You are the expert here, yet you've done nothing. You appear to have no plan.
And from the time man has been on this world, men have been making mistakes.
God realized that. That's why he make hell.
Well, wait a minute, sir.
This is a benefit of being an independent juror. I don't have to sit there and squabble about who did what over the past 40, however many years.
We touch on the controversial, contentious, and current. Our goal, to leave audiences more informed to make better decisions. Be sure and join us each Thursday at 8 p.m., cable channel 212. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. We hope to see you then.
Play with Island Games. We making dreams come true. Play with Island Games. We paying more out to you. Don't mind the noise in the market. You getting cash in your pocket. 'Cause Island Games is spicy and spicy is tradition. So when you play we putting Bahamians first. Guaranteed to pay. We like them other jokers. We've been here from the start. From the bike to computer. Island Games. We can make your dreams come true. We playing with Island Games.
Welcome back to the second half of On the Record. In this half, our guest, the Honorable Darren Henfield, he's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Besides being a minister, Mr. Henfield is also an accomplished former Marine connected to the Royal Bahamas Defence Force, and he has also been called to the Bahamas Bar. Minister, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on.
Thank you, Jerome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Your first time.
I want to congratulate you on what I think is a fantastic show.
Thank you very much.
My wife and I watch it
good,
as often
good.
as we can.
That is your official invitation to come back. But sir, seriously, as we get into the meat of the discussion now, just recently, Prime Minister became very emotional in Parliament when he spoke of Dominica. You recently traveled there, I think, with a fact-finding delegation with him as well. And you got to see the level of destruction as a result of Hurricane Maria. Let's start off by talking a bit about your observations. I know as a Marine you've been involved in the front line in hurricane recovery in the past and would have seen what these storms would have done. But when you look at what happened in Dominica in comparison to some of the things that we've experienced previously, let's talk about that experience.
Well, first, I want to begin by saying that some of the virtues that I think a leader ought to have is empathy and compassion. And it goes a long way as a leader when you can literally put yourself in another's shoe and feel what they feel. I think the Prime Minister placed himself in the shoe of his colleague, Prime Minister Skerritt, and looked at his country and wondered what would happen if such a Cat 5 had sat on the Bahamas for 5 hours or so, wreaking absolute destruction. And so I want to commend him for his leadership. We traveled to Dominica on Monday, where we landed at Melville Airport, Melville Hill, I think it was, and then we took a chopper across to a U.S. asset across to the impacted area of Rousseau, I think it was, and it looks. I was in the hall. I was but the third speaker at the GA before Prime Minister Skerritt. And he opened by saying that his country looked like a war zone. And he aptly phrased his country a war zone of climate change. It is completely destroyed. No structure is left unscathed. People are there. We have this indomitable spirit as a people of color. We've come through many difficult periods and times in our lives, and they've not. You won't ever see us, I think, give up. But you can see when you look into people's eyes, you can see a sense of despair, And when we showed up, you could see a sense of hope, a sense of I'm not alone, a sense that we're all in this together as a CARICOM community, as a region, and as a group from the diaspora of Caribbean people.
And I think something very important that you would have said there, that we are all a part of this CARICOM grouping. And I think sometimes we don't completely understand what it means or even appreciate what it means to be part of a grouping like CARICOM, particularly at a time like this.
Yes. If you look in the Treaty of Chaguaramas, which I think was signed in 1973, you won't find a response for natural disasters. The treaty was meant for free trade among Caribbean countries, for open movement between Caribbean countries. But as a sister nation, as a member of CARICOM, which exists, I think we have about 15 countries, we have this esprit de corps among us, because we have so many things in common. And so when we go into the international community and we speak with one voice, we can go a long, long way rather than seeking to speak by yourself. For instance, we've now brought full to the fore of the international community this issue of climate change. These systems, these ferocious weather systems, are more frequent. They are coming with much more ferocity. I mean, with Irma and Maria, and I think it was another one, Jose, I think we had 3 systems churning in our region.
One time, it was almost as if...
At the same time.
Yeah, unprecedented.
Unprecedented,
yeah.
right?
And then, when you have people saying that climate change is a hoax, and it's not, it's not really as severe as people would say, I think it must be very difficult from a small nation's perspective now to be able to make a case when you have the leader of the largest country in the free world saying that, the scaling back on the Paris Accord and also not giving the kind of attention to climate change that it deserves.
Despite some doubters that still exist out there, I think generally the world community recognizes that climate change is real, and climate change will impact small island developing states like ours more directly than others. We made the point at the UN as well that we are least offensive as it relates to CO2 black emissions of carbon, but we're the most impacted.
Of course, because it's
in our region,
showing up at the doorstep. I want to switch back now to Dominica and really, is that country in a position to fix its own problems right now?
No, absolutely not. Without the help of the international community, without the help of CARICOM community, the Caribbean community, Dominica will have a long, long way before it can begin to see any semblance of recovery. Even the government offices are impacted severely. I mean, there's mud in the streets. Every building is touched. It looks like a makeshift sort of community. Looks like a movie scene, a movie set. Looking at the photographs doesn't really paint the true picture as to what's going on in Dominica. And I walked off with the Chinook, myself, the Prime Minister, and the Minister of Immigration, and we were met by the Foreign Minister there. And there were a group of gentlemen sitting on the bleachers because the Chinook landed in the stadium. And I sort of just looked at them and saw that they were so happy to see others from the outside coming in, and I sort of pumped a fist to say we're with you, and in unison they pumped back. I'll give you that photograph.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very touching. Now, Dr. Minnis the Prime Minister would have come under a great deal of criticism for his decision to assist Dominica. From the very beginning, when he announced right after the visit by Dominica's Prime Minister, he announced that the Bahamas would be assisting. It's almost as if, almost immediately the criticism started. He brought details eventually. And even after that, it continues.
Yeah.
What does something like this cost the Bahamas?
You mean in terms of dollars and cents?
In dollars and cents. Let's start with dollars and cents.
It's very difficult to put a dollar and cents tag on trying to bring aid to another country. And when I was asked this question initially, my response was no country in this region is in the optimal position to be able to expend the type of capital needed to assist Dominica with its recovery. No country. But whatever little we can do, I think the Prime Minister offered in the first instance that students displaced would be able to come to the Bahamas if they so chose to. In the second instance, I think the Prime Minister offered the Defense Force vessel, HMBS Lawrence Major, which is an LCU which can carry containers and produce 15,000 gallons of water a day through a reverse osmosis system and do other things to sustain those who are working assiduously in the recovery effort. It's very difficult, Jerome, to put a dollar figure on what is required to help Dominica. What is encouraging is that right now as we speak, the Americans are on the ground in Dominica, the Canadians are there, Venezuela is there, and believe it or not, Palestinians are there. Jamaica is there from the JDF, Jamaica Defense Force. And in short order, we hope to have our ILCU go down there from the Defense Force.
Is it the kind of aid that will bring the country, our country, to the brink of economic disaster? I mean, what could possibly be the economic impact of providing aid?
I don't think it is. To answer your question in a nutshell, no. I don't think it is. But we cannot ignore the fact that we live in very austere times. Things are difficult. There are issues that we are tackling at home, and so for people to hear you saying that you're going to do something abroad, which is what is expected from the international community, the Committee of Nations require that we respond. You know, you indicated earlier that I spent my life in the Defense Force, and I did. And you know, with another vessel stranded at sea, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, you're going to have to turn around and go and help that stranded vessel. Because you never know when you're going to need help. You never know when you're going to be stranded. So it's very difficult to peg a dollar or a price. How do you put a price on stabilizing someone's life? How do you put a price on helping a country to come back together again? You know, the Bahamas is an archipelago. If we're struck in Maikal or Ragged Island, we still have the northern islands of Grand Bahama, Abaco, Bimini, and the rest of it. But this is one contiguous landmass, a country that was completely decimated by ferocious winds and weather systems. You know, obviously tornadoes were involved as well, if you look at the debris and the debris field around the place. And so it's very difficult to put a dollar figure on it.
Now, in the past, we have provided aid to other countries who have been hit by hurricanes. You yourself would have been a part of that as a part of the Defense Force. Why is it, do you think, this time there's all this controversy? I mean, this is not the first time. In my own experience as a journalist, I know that we have gone into other countries and helped, assisted, sent manpower, sent the Defense Force, sent aid, done things. Why now? Why at this juncture is this so much backlash by this offer of humanitarian aid?
I don't know. I wrestled with that same question. I think we are in a time when expectations are so high. People expect that you would do things immediately and urgently upon coming to office, and then intervenes Dominica and Turks and Caicos and other islands impacted. And so I think it's a matter of anxiety where people believe that you're leaving them undone here at home in the Bahamas to go and attend to someone else abroad.
Very quickly before we go to the break, do you think, though, is it because when you came in, when this government came to office, you painted this picture of an economy teetering on the edge? You know, all of these things, we were being told almost on a daily basis of how bad it was economically, and now you've come and said, okay, well, we're going to now help out these guys next door.
That had something to do with it, but painting a picture of a bad economy wasn't just us in our campaign rhetoric. We had 4 downgrades from the international monetary community. We couldn't identify what we did with a lot of new taxes that came in, and even now it is still difficult to do some of the programs that you'd like to do in governance due to Moody's and the rest of them still knocking at your door. And so it's not that we pulled something out of the air and said, well, look, this economy is teetering, this economy is on the brink of collapse. The international community really indicated the same by downgrading us 4 times.
Until you accept that, everything that we've been talking about in the economy would have led to a lot of this angst.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so we're at the point of a break. We are looking into Dominica, the cost of being neighborly. The Honorable Darren Henfield is our guest here. Join us for more on the record on the other side of this meeting.
Shakespeare in Paradise presents its 2017 Theater Festival, featuring Othello, Once on This Island, Small Acts, From a Yardie to a Yankee, Bard to Go, Derek Burrows' Storyteller, Judah the Lion, Tebby Burrows, and Before the Trees Was Strange, October 2nd through 14th. Tickets can be purchased at the Dundas. 4 plays, 5 events, and 40 performers. Shakespeare in Paradise. See the wonder of your world.
Welcome back. This is our final segment in this episode. Our topic tonight, Dominica, the cost of being neighborly. We're continuing our discussion with the Honorable Darren Henfield. He's the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Sir, I'm sure you would have been a part of those delegations too that would have gone to Ragged Island, Acklands, even Grand Bahama, Bimini, to look at the damage that would have followed Hurricane Irma here in our own backyard. Have we started rebuilding those communities?
We have started the cleanup in Ragged Island. I was there recently, about 2 weeks ago, when the chairman for CARICOM visited, Dr. Keith Mitchell from Grenada. And we've started to clean up. The people in Ragged Island are really something else to behold. They were not fazed by what they saw. They were not fazed by the level of devastation that hit their island. This is a community that pulled together and worked together to begin to clean up. And I don't know whether or not we've commenced reconstruction yet. I'm sure most of them have, because of the nature of these people in Ragged Island. As you indicated, Michael was not as severely impacted as Ragged Island. There was some tornadic activity in the north, in Grand Bahama and in Bimini. But I also want to commend the Prime Minister for taking the initiative and for evacuating more than 1,200 of our citizens from the Michael area. We believe, had we not done that, we could have been painting a different picture, a different story would have been coming out of the Bahamas following Irma.
But the flip side of that is you would have had, for instance, the difficulty with some of the residents in Acklands not wanting to go back after things, after the storm had passed, and hearing about the devastation that they were going to meet and concerns about where they would live, etc.
Yeah, one of the lessons from Katrina, I think, in Mississippi, was it New Orleans, was that how do you get people to return to begin to rebuild the community? And I think what you had was 1 or 2 citizens in the community standing up and saying, I'm going to go back and rebuild. And sure enough, 1 started to be 2, and so on and so on and so on, and people returned. I think a part of their concerns was that their islands were not ready for their return, and that was quickly dispelled when they returned.
Do you think the Bahamian public is satisfied that we are taking care of our own first? And I ask that because you look at, for instance, at Grand Bahama, that continues to struggle to recover from a Hurricane Joaquin, from a Matthew. There are people who tell you they still suffering from Francis and Jean. Yeah. Are people satisfied that we are looking after ourselves first?
Some people are, and some people are not. Some people realize that you can only do what you can with the limited resources that you have available to you. If you look at, in the first instance, what we offered Dominica, it was a couple of placements in classrooms. In the second instance, we offered the Defense Force vessel, which will have to go on patrol anyway in that area and can in the southern Bahamas and to assist our islands in that district, and can be used to just shuttle some important things for the recovery effort in Dominica to that island. And I think recently we offered some medical assistance on a voluntary basis. Medical students, medical officers, doctors who want to volunteer and become a part of the recovery effort. Because when we spoke to Prime Minister Skerritt, he mentioned the fact that his doctors were really stressed.
I'm sure.
Because they lived through this horrific event. And here they are now, their homes and their families are still undone, but they're trying to tend to people. And I want to tell you, Jerome, before you move on, please, if you permit me, that Dominica is still in the recovery effort, search and recovery.
Yeah,
when we were there on Monday, I asked the foreign minister, how many of your people are unaccounted for? And she indicated to me that there were between 17 and 28.
Wow.
And you have cadaver dogs from Cuba who's searching the debris, and you have all these far-flung mountainous kind of settlements that are very difficult to get to. And then you look at it in the economy that is decimated. The infrastructure is decimated. There is nothing at all for them to rely upon except outside assistance.
It's a very, very scary time. Do you think, though, that in hindsight, the Prime Minister's initial announcement that we will be helping Dominica, in hindsight, do you think that could have been handled differently? And the reason I ask that is because a lot of people, without having details, jumped to conclusions and asked a lot of questions and made a lot of assumptions. Would it have been wiser to have waited and given a full plan, or is that sort of what you do when you have these kind of bilateral discussions? You come out and say, we're going to help. In hindsight, what should have really happened?
Well, Jerome, hindsight is always 20/20, right? We can all see what we should have done differently, but here you had a leader facing another leader whose country is in complete disarray, and his colleague prime ministers offers to assist in any which way he can. I mean, the details were later forthcoming, but the Prime Minister I think was within his right as a leader, as a member of CARICOM, to offer the assistance of his nation to help another Prime Minister, another leader who found himself in dire straits. He's looking into the eyes of Prime Minister Skerritt as he walks off with a plane coming from the UN, and he sees something. He sees something in the man's soul that says that we got to do whatever we can to help this man to recover, as we would wish and hope that others would respond to us had we found ourselves in a similar position.
Are you satisfied that this government is communicating effectively what is happening to the people and giving enough information in a timely manner?
No, I believe we can all do a little bit better at keeping the public informed as to what we're doing, as to what is going on. In my ministry, I have a Facebook page. We have an official page where we try to keep the public up to date. We try to inform the media. I mean, we are a transparent government, and so informing the community, informing the general public as to what we're doing, I think we can do a little bit better job at that.
I wouldn't advise you follow the Donald Trump model with the tweeting on a daily basis every morning.
I'm not biting on that.
I wouldn't advise that. How are how is the community of Dominica that lives in the Bahamas? How are they coming forward to assist?
From what I've seen, they're very responsive, very in touch with what's going on in Dominica. I don't know if you recall, but the Prime Minister took two checks of private donations, totaling $60,000. Private donations, nothing to do with the government's funds. Private donations from private citizens. They're very much involved. They're very much encouraged by our government's position. And we often remind people that Dominicans help us to establish the Bahamas. All of in the encoded stages of our establishment, you had Dominican police officers, teachers, and land surveyors, and other professionals that came to the Bahamas and helped us. And a lot of them remained here. So there's a very strong presence of Dominicans in the Bahamas.
Interesting. Were you, trying to find the right word, but I'll use the word that comes to mind. Were you embarrassed by some of the things that we were saying and the way that people were responding to this announcement that we were going to help another sister nation?
I think we celebrated this year. We're celebrating this year 288 years of a parliament, which is the epitome of democracy. In the Bahamas, we have freedom of speech. We have freedom of association. You're sometimes disappointed in some of the rhetoric that you hear, but you have to appreciate that in a democracy, people have a right to the expression of their views and opinions. You know, you have to appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Well, I wonder whether, too, though, this has been a learning exercise for the Prime Minister and yourself, other cabinet ministers, on really how do we deal with things like this going forward. Whenever there is an opportunity or there's an instance for a call for help outside of the country, how do we address it going forward?
I'm sure there are lessons that we can take away. I'm sure there are lessons where we can find ways to do things better. But in the moment, leaders act.
Yes.
Leaders stand by their conviction.
My final question, and you come, this is of course looking into your military background, but Nima played as with any storm, played a significant role in this storm, in Irma, and in the preparation for what could have happened. Quite a different response from the public to Nima this time around. It wasn't the heavy criticism that we would have seen in the past for Nima, and even some actions that government would have taken in the past heading into hurricanes or even in the aftermath of hurricanes. What was different this time around?
I think it comes down to leadership. I think on the Sunday before the week of the hurricane, the Prime Minister and I were in Atlanta where we had some meetings with the diaspora trying to re-engage the Bahamian community wherever they may be found in the world. And we actually got back into country on the Sunday afternoon. And immediately the Prime Minister called for all of the parties concerned with preparedness to come to the cabinet, where we could get a sense of the state of readiness of our country going into the ensuing week, expecting that we would be impacted by this weather system. And I think it's because we kind of jumped out in front of it. It was not a knee-jerk reaction, and I account all of that to leadership. We were able to keep the public informed as to what we were doing. We were able to pull off a seamless evacuation where systematically we walk through when they get on the plane, when they get off the plane, when they get in the bus, when they get in the shelters, and when they're fed, systematically at that level. And I think leadership was the difference this time around.
Well, sir, certainly would have passed that test in the very beginning, but as you know, time will tell. We have still an active hurricane season and many more to come. So I wish you the best and continue to keep your shoulder to the wheel. Yours is not an easy ministry, I know. You've got so much more we could have talked about in this segment, but I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to speak again.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being here.
Certainly.
We ask the Bahamian community to continue to pray for us as we seek to do as best as we can for our country, which is yet developing.
Yes,
thank you very much.
So, and thank you again for coming. We hope to have you back on, and we certainly hope that you've enjoyed tonight's show. Special thanks to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honourable Diane Henfield, Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge, Reverend Frederick McAlpine, my producer, technical staff, and of course you, the audience, for watching every week. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Record. Until then, I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Good night, everyone.